All right, what's next? We're going back to, okay, should paternity tests be mandatory?
Ladies, do you think mandatory paternity testing would hurt or help women in today's society?
Heated
do you want to
debate.
stay for this question and then?
Oh, it's Farha.
Can I pee? I had like
And Q. And Andrew again.
Okay.
Does not give you wings.
Ladies, do you think mandatory paternity testing would hurt or help women in today's society?
I don't know. I feel like that's such a
No idea who this is.
broad question because I feel like in some ways it.
I say yes. That would not be a bad idea at all. Mandatory paternity testing. That would be cool. Totally down with that.
To be harmful, but in other ways, I think overall.
How could that be harmful? If harmful is women don't get to lie about who the kid's dad is, I don't see how that's. I feel like preventing harm isn't harmful.
It would be helpful in terms of, child support and knowing it, but it's like, that's odd because it's like, what's the circumstances? Is it just like for every birth there's a paternity test?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what ways would that be harmful?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
Just like if
how
the person is an abuser, someone who's like, doesn't necessarily, they don't want to be tied to the person.
Well, I mean, if it's that person.
Yeah, but do you have a right to hide?
Wait, okay. Is she saying that this would be for if the mom specifically wanted to pretend someone else was the father to avoid the actual father? But not in a... Like, because the actual father was like a bad guy? I feel like that doesn't happen like that. Like, that sounds kind of...
Paternity based on the fact
confused.
that the other person's abusive?
I mean...
Yeah, like what?
I would want to do anything to get out of it.
You think so?
I do, just because if you're abusive to me, what are you going to do to the child?
Yeah.
That doesn't... Okay, listen. You don't have a right to hide the paternity from a father based upon whatever your analysis is of abuse. I've heard things as ridiculous as this. Emotionally abusive.
Yeah,
which means nothing. It means nothing.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't mean nothing. That's kind of crazy. Like, obviously you can be emotionally abusive. Like, that's a thing. And it can be really bad. I don't know if that would rise to the level of we have to hide the existence of a child. But like, if you're with an abusive guy and you're pregnant, like, he's gonna have an idea. I just don't see where this becomes like a practical application. I'm very confused.
No, it's not.
No, it's not crazy.
It's not. Because
Emotional abuse
It's kind of crazy.
is nothing?
Yeah, it means nothing. It's a subjective analysis.
Subjective. It's subjective.
Wow.
Something being subjective doesn't mean it means nothing.
That's an interesting
Well, listen, it is subjective. Give me an objective.
Like, if I'm completely unattracted by a woman for some reason, it's a subjective thing. Like, someone else could be like, well, actually, you're incorrect, and she's extremely attractive in every way. That would be subjective, but it means that I'm not going to be interested in her. So, like, just because something is subjective doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, I don't think that's subjective in the terms of psychology at all.
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
it's
yes,
most subjective in psychology.
Exactly.
It's a subjective analysis. So like, let me give you an example. I can give you a really easy.
It is subjective, and it might not always mean something, but it definitely can.
Easy one, okay? Let's say that you're going out and you're overspending from my perspective. Like, let's say I'm married to a woman and I say, listen, you're overspending, okay? And you say, well, listen, I really need to spend this because I need X, Y, and Z for the household. You think the paper towel holder and this and that is very important. Maybe it is. Maybe it is important.
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past.
And I think it isn't. So I go and I cut off your access to that threshold of money and give you a lesser threshold of money that I think is appropriate
Okay.
and you don't think is appropriate. Is that abuse?
How important is the thing? If it's paper towel holders, then probably it's not abuse. But if it's like medication, then it might be, yeah.
In that specific scenario, there's just like several factors to whether or not something is or isn't financial abuse.
Because it's subjective. That's why.
And it's predicated on how the
We
woman
can agree
feels
that-
about
Wait,
what you
wait,
say.
hold on.
Because
Hold on. Go ahead.
And it's predicated on how the woman feels about what you say. Like a lot of women just don't take kindly to being criticized at all. They don't take kindly to a guy. Even if a guy gets moderately upset and he raises his tone a little bit, you have women who will consider that emotional abuse. That's not
I
emotional.
don't, but I mean, to me, emotional
Yeah.
abuse is like verbally saying really degrading, horrible things, and like a systemic thing over a systemic thing over time. Excuse me. And so, I mean,
Like
yeah, maybe
systemic-
I didn't initially understand the point you were trying to make with the suggestive, because
Subjective,
Sorry, I'm
yeah.
stuttering really bad
It's
right
okay.
now.
It's okay.
But in terms of emotional abuse being a factor, I think is important, though it is suggestive.
So subjective.
Thank you, subjective.
Yeah.
Even though it is subjective, it is something that, I mean,
Well,
has
that-
long-standing effects on both
Yeah, right,
parent and
but-
child. But when my initial point, I was thinking more so abuse of the other aspects, because emotional is, it is impactful, but it's not as dangerous to like the health of the
Yeah, but then
child
you-
versus the other one.
So let's move into, okay, if fair enough, you say, okay, when it comes to this, it's subjective, so maybe we wouldn't hide paternity on that. But if we move over to physical abuse, let's say, right? You think that that's cut and dry. Well, what if this guy, he's convicted of physically abusing the mom? Then shouldn't we be able to hide paternity? If she says, yeah. I still say no, and here's why. Because plenty of people get accused of doing domestic violence or doing things like this, and they haven't actually done it. And so we're going to yield to the word of the woman in this case and hide the paternity of that man.
I don't think hiding the paternity is a practical scenario here. I don't think, I mean, there's like ways to get full custody if somebody's actually like abusing you or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one.
Child for something which could easily be a falsehood. That's immoral to the utmost in my worldview.
Okay, and I see that, but for me, it's like, if you're talking about a mandated paternity test, then at that point, that's the government getting involved in between the relationship and the personal affairs of people. And I am the kind of person that prefers to step off of unnecessary, like, government
Wait, I have a
control.
You're a
question.
communist.
In
You
my
want the
world.
government involved in the life, that literally every
Who
single
the
aspect
hell
of
said I was a communist?
You did.
When?
Didn't
I
you
thought-
earlier? Didn't
No,
you say you were a
I was
communist?
talking about capitalism, and you said the word communism when that word never left my mouth.
So socialism?
I mean, first, I'm not really here to debate politics.
Okay, I'm just
I didn't-
asking this.
I came here to talk about
Are you
dating.
a socialist?
I mean, I consider myself a leftist.
Okay, yeah, you don't care if government's involved in your life for all kinds of stuff. What, did you care if the government was involved in my life when there were certain mandates going on around? You didn't give a shit. But now suddenly you care about. Now
I didn't
suddenly
give a
you
shit
care
about
about
what mandates.
this.
Can you?
Hold on.
I can't get into
Let's-
that.
Let's not get into it.
But you know what I'm
Look.
saying.
Yeah, okay, I do now. Yes.
Yeah.
But
Wait, I have a question. You said when it comes to, you wouldn't want the government involved with mandatory paternity
like
testing.
over people's
But-
autonomy.
But let me ask you a question. Let's say, do you want kids one day?
No.
Oh, okay.
So this is honestly for
Okay.
me. This is just like a thing that I don't really want to do.
Hold
I
on.
mean, that was kind of an asshole move, but
Let's keep
that
it nice.
was a
Let's
real
keep it nice.
asshole move.
Yeah, let's keep it nice, guys. Let's keep it nice, okay?
Because some people are smart enough to know what's best for them, and for me in my life,
Okay.
I don't want to have children.
Just let me ask the question, okay?
But I would, if I wanted to,
Okay.
be a good mother.
Okay, so my question is though, do you think, you said you wouldn't want the government involved when it comes to paternity testing, whatever. So are you not in favor of child support? women receiving
My-
child support, for example?
So I believe that whoever has the child should have support from the other partner, regardless of their gender.
I think she's walking into a trap here.
I think that if
Okay.
a single father has the full custody of the child, which which is enforced by the courts.
The state.
The government.
The
But
state, yeah.
you said you don't want the government involved with mandatory paternity testing, so I'm just confused. But
Well,
you're-
I mean, look, the government has its role. All right, the government has its role, and I don't. I mean, at the end of the day,
But you do realize that, like, for example, in a child support dispute,
Mm-hmm.
that the government would actually require if the
yes,
man
and then that's
disputes
a case
paternity.
by case basis. But when you're putting in a mandated paternity test, then that is adding a complicated layer of paperwork and testing.
No, it's just literally
for-
you're already in the hospital. It's actually the perfect scenario to
But like,
have
does that apply to
Really, the
married?
conditions couldn't be
Here's
better,
my further
could they?
questions: is
Yeah.
like, does that apply to married couples or couples that are still together,
Yeah.
or are we okay?
Yeah, everybody.
Okay.
Anyways, here, let's just
Yeah, obviously it would apply to everybody. Now, there are some circumstances where this get weird because, like, mandatory paternity testing would just be between, like, whoever thinks they're the father and the mother. So, like, if the guy, like, ran off, I don't know, would they put, like, a warrant out for his arrest, or like, if it was the wrong guy, would you just, like, start rounding up guys that she knew until you figured it out? Like, it could get weird, but I think, like, in principle, it makes sense.
Let's go around the table so anybody can
literally
answer
everybody.
this. Do you think mandatory paternity testing would hurt or help women in today's society?
Would mandatory paternity tests hurt or help women?
In today's
Or
society.
just be good?
That's one of the super chat questions.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any children, but I don't see why it would be a problem.
Okay, Madison.
I feel like with the way not all women, but a majority of women are moving nowadays, like it could be very harmful to their children and the
Wait,
man.
What would
do
be
you mean?
harmful?
Paternity testing, like if they found out the
Like breaking their
child's
families.
dad was not the guy that she was with, like that would be breaking their family apart.
It's a,
From a mandatory place. I mean,
Yeah, so I guess it could be harmful to the woman and the child. But, like, in the totality of circumstances, it would still be better. I don't think she's saying it would be a bad idea.
I see your point.
I don't.
What about the truth?
No, I think the truth is great. I think,
Okay.
yeah, no,
Wait,
absolutely,
but-
everyone should know the truth. But I think it's going to be terrible for the children if the truth
Oh,
is
so
revealed.
you're in favor?
That's what
are
I'm
you in
saying.
favor of
With the way a
paternity
lot of women
testing?
are moving nowadays, they're like a lot of children aren't going to be having
I
dads
see.
anymore.
So it would be bad for women, but you don't object to paternity testing.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm for it.
So you acknowledge? Okay, I see. Are you in favor of that, Andrew? It sounds like.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that the rates of paternity, which are lied about, is wildly understated, and
This is probably true because like, who would I feel like most of the time you're not going to, like, admit to that.
yeah, absolutely. I think that if mandatory paternity testing was done, there would be significant problems for women, but the kind of problems that I think they should see, which is responsibility.
How would it make it bad for
Forever
us?
inside of human society, men did not have this.
Right.
We'd never had the luxury of we had to always take the word of the woman as to paternity. We don't have to do that now, and we absolutely shouldn't do it now. And even if it's not mandatory, everybody should get one no matter what, always. Period.
And just
Of course. And I have 100. I have what I would consider 100% faith and trust in my wife. But I told her.
Well,
I told
also-
her these words exactly. you're going to get the fucking test, and if not, I'm out the door. Period.
Well, also, there
And
are...
that's not emotional abuse.
Yeah. Well, there also...
Yeah, that would be considered emotional abuse. Exactly.
How is that 100% trust and faith? I mean, it's your prerogative to do that, but...
Okay, well...
It's not for her. It's for me.
Yeah. Well, it's also...
That's
there are
not
also
trustworthy.
cases where, like, the hospital will jumble up babies.
No, it's not.
It's as much
100%
trust
it's
as I can
Antithesis
give
of
you.
trust.
True. There are times. I don't know who that guy is, but he said some facts. Hospitals do be switching up babies by accident. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. You should definitely double check.
It's as much trust as I can give.
Yes,
you.
because you can't confirm that. There's no
make
way for a
someone
man to
guarantee
confirm that.
something, that's not trust.
Well, where's the trust back the other way? Just being like, okay, yeah, no problem.
Also, he didn't say 100% trust. He said as close to 100% trust as he feels like is possible.
Wait, Andrew.
If there was ever
I mean,
any
yeah,
resistance,
that's how that works. That's how trust works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the like? What's the pitch to, like? How would you say that? Because I feel like if I were to say that to a girl, I could see her like
Dumping
my
down.
wife or when I'm having kids.
What could she?
Get the
What?
fucking paternity
What
test.
possible argument could a woman have towards asking you to get a paternity test other than it makes her feel bad?
If she's unfaithful.
Or like you don't trust.
Other than it makes her feel bad, what could the argument possibly be? Give me a single argument
I think
other
it would
than
only be if
because
she
it
was
makes me feel bad. I want to hear it.
But why?
Stop using ChatGPT and Google. Trust me when I tell you your professor's going to notice you use ChatGPT for your research. Why? Because it uses...
Why would
not
you
full
want to
trust in
make
the
her feel
relationship.
bad?
So that's I feel bad.
If you're worried that she'd be cheating on you, why would you even want to?
So that's I feel bad?
Not
It's
really.
I feel bad?
Saying clearly we don't have a strong foundation. Sorry.
That's I feel bad.
No, it's not. It's saying we don't have a strong foundation.
Why would that matter if it didn't make one of them feel bad?
Because she could say like, if we don't have a strong foundation of trust and faith.
Because it makes her
No,
feel
she
bad.
can feel neutral about it and still be like, oh, okay,
so
he
if
doesn't
she-
trust
so
me.
wait a second,
And
she
maybe
feels
he's
neutral?
gonna be constantly
If she
anxious this
feels
whole
neutral about it,
relationship.
if she feels neutral about it,
That's why I have to talk
if she
fast,
feels
yeah.
neutral about it,
You
who
gotta let her
cares?
finish her point.
Say your point.
If
Go
they
ahead,
feel,
Farah.
if she
Go ahead,
feels
Farah.
neutral,
Trust is kind of irrelevant because however much you trust a person does not affect the outcome of like what's going to happen and whether or not they're lying to you anyway. So like I understand what she's saying, but at the same time it doesn't matter at all.
about it, then who cares?
I'm
ahead,
saying
Farah.
if you don't have trust in a relationship, typically that will lead to a bad relationship, regardless if the parties in the relationship
That's probably not true.
feel bad about it or not. That was my only point.
Yeah, but that's the only argument is feel bad.
No, it's not. I literally said it doesn't matter if they feel bad or
Because
not.
if
She
one
can
of them-
object and say clearly we don't have a strong foundation.
38 donated $200. Love your hair, Maddie. GL with your marriage. Brian, love the Andrew Marathon. Shout out Crucible.
Yo,
Taking
go sub this
Farah as
Crucible.
my wife. KTHX.
Okay, thanks. Yo, Bone Man.
Taking Farha as my wife, that's so cringe.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Welcome. Good to see you back in the chat, man. Go ahead, Farah, with your point.
Bone Man
I completed it.
538.
Yeah, so
Oh, she comes
super
so
cringe.
the only reason that the trust variable is there is because it would make one feel bad over the other. That's it.
I don't know
So
if
the
that's
only
true.
argument you would make for the trust is you don't trust me, and that what, Farah? You don't trust me, and that makes me.
But it doesn't have to make you feel bad.
I
to
literally
Then why
just
would it
said
matter?
coming
Why
from,
would
though.
it
the
matter?
basis of a relationship.
It's a foundation
Because
relationship.
if
Yes,
it's not,
exactly.
and why is it a foundation?
Okay, what about this?
It's how based on how
Maybe you don't
people
care or
feel.
not. You're completely apathetic to whether your wife cheats on you, but maybe you still don't want her to do that, even if you have no emotional reaction to it because you think that.
What? That's if you have. So you're just like a sociopath? I'm so
Creates
confused.
an unstable foundation for a relationship.
Then
even if you're completely apathetic and maybe you're a cuck and you get
Then
off
why
to
would you
it.
care about the paternity test? How would that be an argument if it's just a neutral?
You were saying what is an objection to
Right,
your
Yeah, but
your
how
boyfriend
would that
asking
be
you
an
for a
objective?
paternity test,
Yeah,
and I'm
how-
saying you could say we're missing an important tenet of our relationship, an important pillar that isn't contingent on me feeling good or bad about it. That was my only point.
Then if you don't feel good or bad about it, why would it be an important pillar?
Same way I told you maybe if your wife's cheating on you, but you don't necessarily care, wouldn't you agree that that could have adverse effects on the relationship, regardless
So
about
those-
how you feel
well,
about
so
it personally?
Those would be like the adverse effects that you would be talking about are like her getting pregnant,
No, not necessarily.
her giving you a VD,
even if she was infertile.
her giving you VD,
What is that?
venereal disease.
I don't think those would be your only objections
Well,
to your
then
wife
what?
stepping out
Other
on you. I
than
think
how
from
that
your,
makes you feel, then I don't
I think
understand
from
the
your-
objective.
You're religious. From your Christian
Yeah.
purview, you could probably outline a plethora of reasons for why you wouldn't want your girlfriend or wife to be sleeping with other people, other than it makes you feel bad. You'd probably think it, has adverse.
Yes.
Yeah, but just because there's other reasons, this is just a pointless conversation now.
That's true. I could appeal to an objective standard. Yes.
Yes, and most
But
people
this
in
is not.
relationships
What
appeal
objective
to
standard are you appealing to?
usually the tenets of trust in a relationship.
That's not an objective standard. It's a subjective standard.
Most relationships subscribe to that. Obviously, people can deviate from that. But
Yeah, but
I think
that's a subjective standard. And at the end of the day, the only reason you appeal to that subjective standard is because if I don't trust you and you don't trust me, one of us feels bad.
I just told you there's many instances where you might not feel
There's
bad,
not
but
a
you still might have
single
a
one of
standard.
those that doesn't really boil down to it made the other person feel bad.
There definitely are other reasons, but they have nothing to do with this paternity test thing.
He just disagreed.
No, you even created a hypothetical neutral. So you said hypothetically, what if neutrally it didn't make you feel bad for your wife to go out and do this thing? Then what would be her objection?
Okay, what if I found out my husband cheated on me and I genuinely have zero emotional reaction to it, but I still want to dump him? Did I dump him because it makes me feel bad, or because I feel like we don't have a strong foundation,
what would-
because there's dishonesty and there's a lack of trust?
Why would I don't understand? Why do you want the honesty and the
Trust is not the be all end all of relationships, and it really shouldn't be. Like, trust is something that like kind of fluctuates over time.
trust inside of the relationship if you don't care if he cheats?
It's not about don't care. I can care without it making me feel bad.
Yeah, but okay, so you care, but it doesn't make you feel bad?
That could happen, yeah.
How?
You can't control
Yeah,
your
that can
emotional
happen.
response to something. Maybe you find out someone cheats on you, or you found out your husband, texted another girl, and you're like, okay, this violates
And you
my
would
boundaries.
care about that
People have
because
boundaries that
it makes
aren't-
you feel bad.
People have boundaries that aren't always directly, purely correlated to their feelings about it.
Oh, really? So if guy is texting and you don't care, that means...
It's not about don't care. It maybe doesn't make me feel bad.
Oh, if it doesn't make you feel
I'm saying
bad,
I
then
can
you don't
about
care,
it.
right?
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
No.
So you care if a guy's texting another person even if it doesn't make you feel bad?
I would still care. Even if in that moment I felt apathetic about it, I would still... And
That sounds weird. I don't understand what this has to do with mandatory paternity testing anymore.
the relationship. Even if I personally didn't cry about it.
Even though you didn't care.
Even if I didn't cry about it or
Why
feel
would you
sad
do
or
anything?
insecure.
Why would you do anything at all if you didn't care?
Right.
That makes no sense. That's the stupidest thing I've heard out of you.
Well, no, that doesn't make no sense. It does make sense because you would do things for pragmatic reasons or practical reasons. Not everything is just based on like emotional drive. So like, let me try to think of an example. Eating healthy. No, that does make you feel good in the long run. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely things. I'll come back to that maybe.
Tonight. Why would you do anything if you didn't care?